What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to The Breakdown, the series where I analyze your guys' gameplay to help you improve. In today's episode, we're going to be analyzing a team deathmatch gameplay on the map Redwood from wingzero2k. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so let's start it off with the class that he decided to use. As you can see, he's using a KN-44 with quick draw and foregrip, and those are actually my preferred attachments, so that's a great setup so far. He's got the launcher as a secondary so he can shoot down UAVs. Then we've got one concussion, we have 6th sense, afterburner, fast hands, and blast suppressor. And to be honest, looking at this class, there is nothing wrong with this class. It looks great. The one thing I would maybe swap out for my personal preference is I would probably swap blast suppressor for something like awareness or attack mask. Just something that's going to be a little bit more useful, because in Black Ops 3, I find blast suppressor just isn't nearly as useful as it was in Advanced Warfare, and for Team Deathmatch, I just find it's kind of taking up a spot that it doesn't need to be taking up. Okay, so let's get into the actual gameplay. His opening route, he decided to take the left-hand side of the map here, which is where the longer lines of sight are, which is great because he's using an assault rifle, so I can tell he actually planned that out quite well. He's playing to the strengths of his gun, and that is awesome. So as he pushes up here, I like that he pre-aims and just waits for this guy to blindly rush around this corner, and he picks up a free kill because of it. Now right here is something that I don't like that he does, and I see people doing this all the time, and it just means free kills for me. And that is throwing a concussion grenade and then just immediately chasing it right after, without even getting a hit marker with it. Basically, when you do this, you're just announcing to the enemy that's around the corner that you know is going to be around the corner. It was very likely there's going to be an enemy somewhere on that side of the map. You're just announcing to that enemy, alright, I'm coming around the corner, here I come, get ready, as you throw that concussion grenade. So you don't typically want to throw a concussion grenade and then immediately chase it, unless you get a hit marker and you're trying to challenge the guy that you just stunned. But when you don't get a hit marker, it's usually better to hesitate for a little bit, just pause, be patient, see what they do, or throw it there and then try a different route. Like, he could have tried maybe a wall run underneath or something, just to take that enemy off guard, because the enemy sees that stun, sees where it's coming from, and that's where he's waiting for you to come around the corner. So there's nothing wrong with actually throwing that stun grenade in that situation. It was actually great. If there had been an enemy on the other side of that tree, then you would have known for sure. It was just the fact that you chased it that was not a very smart move. So as he came off spawn here, he actually goes into the water here, gets on this enemy's flank, which was great. He was able to pick up this nice easy kill. I love using the water to flank enemies, but right here is another really common mistake that I see a lot of players making, and I feel like you could have won this gunfight if you were a little bit more prepared. So let's have a look at what happened. So as you were coming up to this piece of cover right here, this rock, keep an eye on where your crosshairs are currently centered. As you can see, where I put this little red dot, this is the center of your screen right now. How likely is it you're about to run into an enemy right in the center of that dot? Highly unlikely. Unless he does some kind of a weird drop shot around the corner, you are not going to be centered on any enemies at all. Instead, right where this green dot is, this is where you should have your screen centered. This is actually called centering. A lot of people call this centering. You want to keep your crosshairs up and where you expect to run into enemies. Had you kept the center of your screen up and at this green dot right here, you would have been more prepared for this gunfight, and then when you run into this enemy, you wouldn't have had to try to panic to bring your aim up and get onto target. All you would have had to do is start pulling the trigger and start aiming down sight at the same time, and you would have had a great chance of winning that gunfight. I'm not saying you would have won it 100% for sure, because he did have a Shiva and he didn't miss, but you would have had a much better chance at it. Now skipping ahead just a little bit, this is a relatively obvious mistake, but I'm going to pause it before you actually see what happens to him. What do you think is going to happen in this situation? So right here, just have a look at the minimap. Look where his teammates are, look where his teammates are looking. Look at where is basically safe on the map. Right where he's looking is a safe zone. He's got a teammate that has control of that bunker area. He's got teammates behind him, so that's also a safe zone. Guess where isn't a safe zone right now? Just to his right and kind of behind him. That is an unsafe area that he did not clear before coming up here. And that's exactly where an enemy came from and ended up shooting him in the back. So that's just minimap awareness right there. Keep an eye on where your teammates have control of, what's a safe area, what's not a safe area. And there's really usually no need to be looking towards a safe area, especially when there's a much more dangerous area that could potentially have a line of sight on you. Skipping ahead again, right here is something that I really like that he does. He pushes up to this bunker area here, which is kind of a power position, but it's also exactly where they expect you to be. picks off his one kill, and then he backs away because he was being shot at. It looked like from the window, you could see some bullets coming in towards the bunker. And a lot of people would have been like really stubborn and just stayed there and tried to challenge that guy in the window, which is pretty much a fair gunfight, and it's exactly where he's going to expect you to be. So instead of trying to challenge that guy, I like that he just got his kill and then got out of there. He's being unpredictable in this scenario, which is excellent. Also, he started pushing towards the middle of the map, realized, nope, I don't want to do this. I don't have the advantage here. He saw that enemy and he decided to just turn and run away, get out of that situation. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with getting out of a situation that you aren't feeling comfortable with and you feel like you don't have the advantage in. So great job evading that. This next gunfight that I want to have a look at is something I see a lot of beginners doing, and that is in a gunfight, they just stand still, they stand their ground and shoot back at the enemies. Whereas watch what the enemy is doing in this gunfight. The enemy is strafing back and forth. He's making himself a really hard target to hit. And this is why he was able to win that gunfight. He's being unpredictable. He's making himself hard to hit. Whereas wingzero is just standing still, firing back, and being a very easy target to shoot. So the last situation I want to have a look at is when he pops his vision pulse. He actually marks 2 enemies behind him here. He pushes right outside the doorway to challenge the first enemy, completely exposing himself to the second enemy while he's still in the gunfight with the first enemy. Instead, if he would have been a little bit more patient, stayed back in that doorway a little bit, he could clearly see where those enemies were. He had all the time in the world to kill the first guy. That was going to be an easy kill no matter what. He could have cut that line of sight off to the second guy, and then once he got his first kill, he could have dealt with the second guy accordingly. Instead, he just walked right out of that doorway and completely exposed himself. So that's going to wrap it up for today's episode of The Breakdown. If you have a gameplay that you'd like to submit, all you have to do is send me a link to an unlisted YouTube video to the email address that I will link in the description below. Keep in mind, I'm looking for more of the average to below average gameplay where there's a little bit of struggle. I don't want to see gameplays where you're leading the lobby, you're dominating the lobby. There's really not too much to say about a lot of those gameplays. Whereas if there's a bit more of a struggle going on, there's a whole lot more to talk about in the gameplay. Also, keep in mind it has to be at least 720p in quality. And if you could, please, when you send that email, put somewhere in the title or the text, just put The Breakdown somewhere in there. That way I can just filter my emails out and I can find the ones that are listed as The Breakdown because they kind of get mixed in with all my other emails and it can be a little bit confusing. So that's going to wrap it up for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this one and I will talk to you guys next time.